Hello everyone, what's happening? This is Forgo, and today I thought I'd provide you with the best uniforms that you can purchase while the Black Friday sales are going on. So we're just going to start from left and work our way to the right, and I'll just give you guys my insight on what I think about these uniforms and as to whether or not you should purchase them. So the first one is Quicksilver here, this uniform right here, the Uncanny Avengers uniform. It's a great uniform, and you'll find that it is quite useful against GBR, against World Boss. But it's not as good in PvP as it used to be. It still can be useful, but you got characters that have ignore iframes, so he's kind of been knocked out of the meta because of that. But it is a decent uniform. You know, on a scale of 1 to 5, as far as, 5 being the highest rating, I'd probably give it a 3. Probably a 3 because it just doesn't have a lot of usefulness except for World Boss and GBR mainly. Odin here, considering the cost of this uniform, I really don't think you need to buy it. I mean, yes, if you do get it, it's the only uniform that's available for him, and it is absolutely insane. It will put him over the top. It will make him extremely powerful, but the amount of resources you need to level this uniform up is ridiculous. Not to mention the cost of it. And guys, I don't even play with this uniform at all. I completely regret buying the uniform. I completely regret tier 3ing him because I don't use him for anything. Now for some players, now if you want to make Odin great, then you should absolutely get Silver Surfer is a must buy. The black uniform is a must buy. If you want to do well in PvP, it's a must buy. It's actually really good in PvE as well, must buy. Thanos, this uniform is a good uniform, and it's still very good in ABX. Sorry about that right now. Still really good in ABX, but it's honestly, I don't really think it's worth it anymore unless you're trying to do well in ABX, although I believe Dormammu can do better than him, but people are really building Dormammu more for PvP, and they're still using Thanos in ABX because their scores aren't that far apart, at least from what I understand. I don't know any of this from my personal testing, just from what I've heard from other alliances and other players that are ABX focused. So I just don't think it's really worth it. Unless you're extremely competitive in ABX, I wouldn't buy it. In PvP, it's really fallen off the meta. It's just not as good as it once was. Still good, but it's just not as good as it once was. Apocalypse, if you're ABX focused, this is a must buy. Plus, this is a great uniform for World Boss. It's a monstrous uniform. Jean Grey, must buy for PvP. Absolutely. This uniform is a must buy. Now, however, if you already have this uniform, I mean, you can make the argument as to whether or not you should get this thing or not. I really, honestly, guys, like for a player like me that's more PvE focused, I never use Jean for anything. I never use her. I just put her in timeline, put her on auto, and that's kind of the trend with the PvP characters that I use. So, and I do use this uniform, and it does do really well. So, it is worth it, but if you already have the X-Men Red uniform, maybe you'd want to skip on it, to be perfectly honest. Although as a striker, it does make her a lot better, but Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic is a good character, but the amount of resources that you got to put in this uniform, I just don't think it's worth it. Unless you're just planning on getting it to do a little bit better damage. It's a good uniform, but it really lacks a little something. But you will be able to do some crazy clears with this thing, especially when you're doing some Tinkerbell tricks with the all defense down, with the Trinity method and so on, with White Fox and Nimrod or White Fox and Deadpool. You can do some pretty crazy stuff with him. But it's a good uniform. I really give it kind of a 4 in PvE and it does play well with a proc. That's something that's nice. Wolverine, I'd skip it. Sorry guys, I'd skip that uniform. It's just not worth it. Doctor Strange, this is a damn good uniform. It's amazing. If you're ABX focused, you should absolutely have it. Unless you already have Summer Days Cable uniform, then you don't need it. But if you don't have that uniform, this thing would be a must buy. Plus in World Boss, it's absolutely insane. These other uniforms aren't going to do as well in ABX. This really is the Kingdom Come. I think it really is a must buy, to be perfectly honest. Deadpool, to be perfectly honest, the holiday uniform is the best, and you cannot buy this thing. So, yeah, if you could buy this thing, I would say it's a must buy. But if it comes down to the other uniforms that are available, I would probably just skip Deadpool, to be perfectly honest. Deadpool is a great character even without the holiday uniform. but I'd probably just wait till another uniform comes out at this point. Namor, kind of the same thing as Deadpool. Sorry, buddy, not right now. I'd probably do the same thing as I would Deadpool. I'd probably just wait. Namor is going to show up in the movies eventually. It might be a while, who knows when. But it's a good uniform. You can do one-shots with it. But it really needs a Rage to shine. And if you don't have a CTP of Rage, it just, to me, isn't worth it. Now, if you're going to got an extra Rage and you want to have a good World Boss killer, a good GBR killer, good for squad battle and so on, then Namor would be a great way to go. Cyclops is a must for Blast Mail Day for ABX because the passive that he gets from the uniform, that's really the only reason you'd want this uniform anymore. I mean, at tier 3, Cyclops just isn't that good. He's okay, but he really just doesn't have the damage output. Yeah, you do some finagling and some funky stuff, and you can do this with a lot of these characters. He could do some decent clears, but really, I think that you just want the uniform for ABX. That's pretty much about it. Magneto, decent world boss killer, ABX meta, although that could change with Norman Osborn's new uniform. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I have no idea. But currently, Magneto is the ABX meta. And it's decent for world boss, good in GBR, good in squad battle. It's a definitely good uniform. If you're ABX focused, I'd say it's a semi must buy because I just don't know if Norman Osborn's going to replace him or not. But if he doesn't replace him, I'd say it's a must buy for ABX. For World Boss, honestly, guys, I never use it. You could probably just skip it. To be perfectly honest with you guys. Carnage is a great tier 3. This is a must buy uniform for Carnage to make him a god. But the thing is, he doesn't really stand out in any game mode except for PvE content. He's really just a world boss killer. He's good against GBR and good against squad battle, but that's where it ends for him. He's not really ABX focused, but it is a must buy if you want to make him a monster. Hulk, you know, this is a great PvP uniform, very good for PvP, but I would say Hulk is probably, he's probably like top 4, top 5 PvP character in the game. But considering the cost that he is, I think it's definitely worth buying because it transcends. It makes him way better, way tankier than what he was before, and much safer to play. Do I think it's a must buy? Not really. I think it's like a so-so buy. Like, I think it's kind of like a close to 4 rating out of 5, as far as 5 being the highest rating, because it is such a good improvement for him. Captain America, no, you don't need this uniform. I mean, if you already have the in-game uniform, you absolutely don't need this uniform. If you don't have the in-game uniform and you have no uniform at all, then maybe you'd want to go ahead and buy this thing. But really, you're just going to want it for the striker support, the all defense down, from using the co-op skill, maybe with the one-shots, him and Taskmaster are an excellent one-shot team. So maybe one of that, or him with Coulson's actually a good one-shot team as well. Sharon Rogers, yeah, I mean, if you want Sharon to be great, it's a must-buy. Unfortunately, she's just, I mean, it's going to be GBR, Squad Battle, and World Boss. You're going to find that's going to be a lot of the thing. A lot of characters are good in World Boss, GBR, and Squad Battle. But they're not ABX metas, and that's kind of where Sharon stands because there is no female Blast Day. Iron Man, I'm sorry to say, guys. Iron Man, you know, for one-shots, he's really good. But other than that, if you don't have a rage on him, I would tell you not to buy it. I feel terrible saying that because I love Iron Man, but I just don't think it's worth buying. I really don't. I never use Iron Man for anything, unfortunately. Black Widow, terrific PvP uniform. Don't really use her in World Boss too much, to be perfectly honest. But she is okay there. But in the snow uniform, she's pretty quality. You know, and then in the black uniform, she's pretty strong in this as well. Good tier 3. But it is a must buy. Like, you definitely want the snow uniform if you want to make her all she can be. For sure, especially in PvP. She's kind of like Hulk. I put her and Hulk kind of in the same league. You know, it's like they're really good for PvP, but in World Boss, they're kind of okay. You know, they're decent. Star-Lord, you're going to have to... Here's the thing about Star-Lord. You're going to have to take him to tier 3 if you run through that epic quest. The Guardians of the Galaxy quest. If you want him to shine at all, you're going to need to buy that uniform. That's just the bottom line of it with Star-Lord. Luna, honestly, Luna, unless you're ABX focused, I wouldn't buy this uniform. If you are ABX focused, I would buy it. It's pretty much that simple for her. She'll still do good in the other bosses without the uniform, especially if you have the Andromeda uniform. She'll still do really well. But if you have no uniform at all and you really want to make a massive improvement, go ahead and get the Lifestyle Series uniform for her. Black Bolt, this uniform transcends him. However, the thing about Black Bolt is he's good for one-shots. It's a really great uniform, to be perfectly honest. I think even at tier 2, he could actually do one-shots with the right teams. To be perfectly honest, I think he could. I don't know that for sure. It's not something I tested, but I do think it is an absolutely transcended uniform. It really is massive. Captain Marvel, she's still an ABX meta, so I'd say it's still a must-buy for ABX. But for anything else, I mean, yeah, GBR, she can do all right, but World Boss, she's kind of fallen off a little bit. In PvP, she's definitely fallen off. You know, having the Ignore Iframe on her 4th skill, she just can get caught by other characters that have Ignore Iframe, like Dormammu, like Silver Surfer. So she's really lost her place in PvP big time. Doesn't mean she can't do work there, but she just lost place. If you don't care about ABX, I wouldn't buy the uniform. I'd probably wait till they brought out another one for her, because I'm sure they will. Ghost Rider, must buy. I think this is a must buy, period. Period for World Boss, for Squad Battle, period for one-shots. It's a must buy. Must buy, must buy, must buy. Must buy, must buy. Thor, sorry. I wouldn't buy any Thor uniforms, guys. The only Thor uniform I'd ever buy is this one. And the only reason I'd buy this one is because in the Legendary Battle, you can get a damn good P card. And that's the only reason I'd tell you to buy any uniform for Thor. Currently, Thor just doesn't have it. Moon Knight, must buy. Even if you're not ABX focused, even if he isn't awakened, I would buy this uniform. This thing is ridiculous. Queue it up, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Dr. Octopus, he has fallen off, but I mean, if you're going to plan on awakening him, you could go ahead and use him. I believe currently in ABX, on Speed Villain Day, you're probably going to use Mystique and Gwenom, although you might use Mystique, Gwenom, and Doc Ock. I don't know. I haven't really tested it, but it definitely transcends him. It's definitely a good uniform for him. I would probably put that uniform at probably around where Hulk and Black Widow are at. It's a really good uniform for him. But unless you're going to awaken him and take him up, I wouldn't buy it. Medusa, damn good uniform. Amazing uniform. You transcend her, you awaken her. She's amazing in this thing. Ridiculous. Can do one-shots, all kinds of crazy stuff. She's pretty insane. Very good uniform for her. Gwenom, this is a uniform that absolutely transcends Gwenom. Even without the awakened skill, it is a massive, massive improvement. Personally, I think it's a must-buy for her. Scarlet, she is probably going to be getting another uniform. I honestly would just hold off. I would not buy a uniform Scarlet because, I mean, I think this uniform is worth it, but I would really just hold off. The amount of resources that you got to put in these things is ridiculous because she's a native tier 2. I would just hold off and wait for the next uniform that comes along. You can't get the Summer Days uniform, which really sucks. Should you buy any of these other uniforms for him? I would say, I mean, you can still do one-shots with Cable. I mean, if you put Cable with Captain America and Taskmaster, he can still do one-shots against Cole. I mean, he still can do it. Or even against Ebony. But it's kind of difficult. It's kind of a pain. But I don't know if I think it's worth it anymore. To be perfectly honest, even without a uniform, he can still do it. They're good uniforms, but I don't think you really need them, to be perfectly honest. Colossus, must buy. It's a must buy for PvP and really even for World Boss, so you get this decreased damage received. This is freaking nuts. Yeah, it's a must buy in my opinion, plus it transcends Colossus. Sabretooth, honestly, at this point in the game, I'd probably pass on this uniform. I probably would not buy it. For one, you're going to need a mythic rank up ticket to level it up. You probably won't have BIOS for this guy because he's a Crystal Wall character. I don't think it's worth it anymore, to be perfectly honest. It's a good uniform, but I just don't think it's worth it. Emma, hell no. Don't buy any of the Emma uniforms unless, and this goes for all the uniforms I just previously mentioned, unless there's a uniform you need that's going to upgrade another bonus stat for a different uniform, Like a uniform like this, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't. She never got the justice she deserved. No way. Same for Iceman. I would not buy this uniform. I wouldn't buy it. For the same reasons as Sabretooth, and really for the same reasons as Emma. Would not queue them up. Magic, the same thing. I wouldn't buy her uniform. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think the Phoenix 5 uniform is worth it. But again, if you're buying it to level up another uniform, then maybe it would be worth it. But I just don't think it is. We'll scroll down here a little bit. Psylocke. This is actually a terrific uniform. Even these days, it's still damn good. You actually might want to consider this for World Boss. But that would be about it. And Shadowland, of course. Storm, this uniform absolutely transcends this character. And if you, even at tier 2 guys, she becomes an absolute beast with this damn thing. She becomes an absolute beast. She will lack survivability, but her damage output is undeniable. And at tier 3, she's ridiculous. Really for Storm, I mean, if you're really into World Boss, really, need to take down Ebony or whatever, I think it's a must buy for her. If that's what you want to do. Domino, I'd probably skip it. I'd probably skip her uniform, unfortunately. Angel, at this point in the game, I would probably skip it. I'd probably skip that uniform. Rogue, this is a damn good uniform, and I do think it is worth buying. She will put in some work in World Boss. She does become a tanky character with lots of survivability, lots of crazy all defense down. Rogue becomes pretty freaking awesome with this uniform. Age of Venom, I skip it. X-23, skip it. Black Panther, skip his. Blade. Okay, so Blade, this uniform transcends him, but honestly, guys, unless you're wanting to push Shadowland, I wouldn't buy it. Just to tell you straight out, I just wouldn't buy it. Cho, insane uniform for him. Insane. Even without the Awakened skill, guys. He is bunko. Very damn strong. Actually, I think it's well worth buying. Crazy freaking uniform. Minerva. Minerva. The thing about Minerva is if you're ABX focused, you'll probably want her. You'll probably want this uniform for the Paralyze and the Burn. You'll probably want her for those things. Really depends on who you're using for Female Combat Day. I mean, if you already have Red She-Hulk, she already has Burn. But she doesn't have Paralyzed, so that's something to consider. But other than that, I probably wouldn't buy it. Sorry, no. Red Guardian, I would honestly skip on his uniform. I wouldn't buy it. You guys can't get this uniform, which sucks. Sue, I would skip it. Johnny, I would skip it. Vision is a good uniform, but honestly, I would skip it at this point in the game. His rework was really good enough. Red Skull, freaking, I mean, if you guys, this thing's ridiculous. This is a very big upgrade. And a lot of these characters, like these tier 2s that I'm looking at right now, like Red Skull, and Blade, like these are characters that you're probably just going to mainly use in Shadowland. And like, it's a great uniform and it bumps them up, but you're not really going to use it in World Boss, to be perfectly honest. It's a good uniform, but if you play on Transcending this guy, it's monstrous. Even in tier 2, he does have a hell of a lot of damage. War Machine, I would probably skip it. I never use it. I'd probably skip it. Ronin, this kind of breaks my heart because I think Ronin's freaking awesome. And I think this uniform is a massive upgrade for him. But the game's to the point now where you really don't need him anymore. However, if you want a good uniform that's easy to play, easy to proc on, and will do those, stage 50 clears in World Boss, this is your guy. This is your guy. He will do it. Spider-Man 2099. Yeah, it's definitely worth buying. I don't know if it's really worth buying at this point, but it is a massive upgrade for him. Spider-Man, sorry guys, I'd probably skip Spider-Man. I probably would skip it. Let's see. Nimrod, insane uniform for him. Even as a support or a standalone character, this is an insane uniform. If you want to do high-level World Boss clears with the Trinity method with White Fox on the team, or even, a debuff leadership that increases your all defense down, I mean, he's going to be your man. He's going to be your man. Move along, Dormammu. Crazy, crazy uniform. It's a must-buy for PvP, but if you're not going to use this guy for PvP or for ABX, I would probably skip it. But, I mean, he's great in World Boss, don't get me wrong, but the amount of resources that you got to put into this thing, I just don't think it's worth it just for World Boss. PvP, you get crystals from every week, so it might be worth it to you then. But it is a terrific uniform. I'd skip these. I'd skip the Black Order ones. I wouldn't buy those at all. Skip those babies. Crossbones, I'd probably skip it even though it's a great uniform. Moving along here. Hulkbuster, skip it. Like, oh, Kamala. This damn thing's a good uniform. This is a very good uniform. This is a very free-to-play friendly uniform. And it will do work for you guys. It's super easy to play. Great survivability. Honestly, I think this is like a must-buy. Yes, it's not OP, but it's such an improvement for her. And she's so easy to play. And she's going to do them stage 50 in World Bosses, guys. She'll do them stage 50s, I guarantee it. She will. It's going to depend on your raid level, but she will do it. She's a pretty freaking awesome character. Don't buy the uniforms for these characters unless it's for gold, whatever. So, Red Hulk's got the Symbiote of Vengeance. It's a good uniform, but to be perfectly honest, I only use it in Shadowland. But it is a good, solid uniform. I'd probably skip it, to be perfectly honest. I hate to say that. That's just how I feel. Miles, if you want to make Carnage stronger, buy it. It's a great uniform, but it's really just going to be a Shadowland uniform. It can put in work in World Boss, but that's about it. Taskmaster, must buy. This is a must buy uniform for this right here. The increased damage supervillains, it's massive. To all allies, it's massive. Terrific uniform as a support. Terrific. Ben, skip it. Venom, massive upgrade for him, especially if you plan on tier 3ing him. If you don't plan on tier 3ing Venom, I would skip it. It's going to be good for World Boss, and you can put in work in GBR as well, do really well there. But PvP, nope. And ABX, nope. He's not replacing Moon Knight in ABX. However, if you don't have Moon Knight and you're just leveling this guy up, maybe you could use him then. So that's something to think about. I wouldn't buy a uniform here. I really wouldn't buy Crystal's uniform, to be perfectly honest. Scroll down a little bit here. Rocket, I'd skip his. I wouldn't buy his. Let's see. Scroll down a little bit more. Ant-Man, really, at this point, I would skip it. I wouldn't buy it. Falcon, same thing. I mean, these uniforms can do good in Shadowland, but World Boss, not really. Skip it. Nick Fury really doesn't need his uniform. I mean, it's nice because you get the extra. Like, you look here, you get 50%, and when you equip the uniform, you're going to get 55%. The leadership stays the same. Honestly, Nick Fury's a character that you just mainly use as a support. But I believe, let me look at something really quick. Yeah, he still deals burn on this skill. So he doesn't need the uniform for burn for ABX. So he really just doesn't need it. Honestly, I'd probably skip the uniform. Shuri, if you buy her uniform, she will get a nice little extra damage bump. Right now it's 35% damage out to supervillains. When you buy this uniform, it gives her 45% damage to supervillains and the 35% decrease from supervillains. She becomes a whole lot better. She'll become a decent Shadowland character. Really, the extra support's really all you're getting it for. Silk, skip it. Sin Vulture, honestly, unless it's Shadowland, I'd skip it. White Fox, unless you're ABX focused for Speed Female Day or Speed Day, I'd probably skip it. Although it is a good uniform because it does offer extra 10% all attack. Yelena is pretty massive, honestly. Her white uniform is good for PvP, or black uniform is good for PvE. Actually, if you already have Yelena, you'll find that these uniforms are actually well worth it. I mean, if you're, a newer player and you're trying to get a character that can do well in PvP, then this uniform is going to do it for you. And if you need a character that can do really well in PvE, this uniform is insane. Yelena is one of my go-tos, even amongst all these tier 3s and awakened characters. She's one of my go-tos to take down World Boss. I would skip all these other ones for the most part. Yep. I would skip this damn thing. I would skip it. Maybe I would buy the hella uniform because you do get a CTP of energy when you buy this thing. And it does have a nice little uniform effect that increases damage dealt to superheroes. So that's kind of nice if you're facing the mutant bosses. And that is about it. So that concludes all of the uniforms. I know I quickly went over some of them because I just don't think they're that relevant. But really, you know, it really just depends on the characters that you use on a regular basis. It depends on if you're ABX focused. And as always, it depends on whether or not you just love the character and you want to build them up. I said earlier, I don't think Iron Man's worth buying. But if you want Iron Man to be the best he can be, and a lot of us are big fans of Iron Man, then you should buy the uniform. And that goes for any other character that I mentioned that I said maybe you shouldn't buy. So it's completely up to you. Let me know what y'all think about my evaluation of these uniforms and where they're useful. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one.